Hi, I'm Ceiren Bell. I teach in the Media Communications and Cultural Studies Department at Goldsmiths. I'm also the admissions tutor for the department, so what I'd like to do today is just give you my perspective on UCAS personal statements for media programmes at a higher education level. So today I'm going to be going through the kind of questions you might need to ask yourself before you begin your application, and then I'll be giving you some practical steps and advice on how to proceed in actually planning and writing it. So the first thing to stress straight off is that personal statements are hugely important. They're a hugely important part of your university application. And that's because really they're the only way that admissions tutors like myself can get a sense of you as an individual and whether or not you're somebody who is likely to thrive on our programs. Because that's really what every single admissions tutor is basically concerned with when we look at a personal statement. We want to see evidence that the applicant understands what and how we teach. And we also want to make sure, as sure as we can be, that they will be a passionate, dedicated and curious student. So the surer we are after reading your personal statement that you are likely to thrive and be happy with us, the more likely we are to offer you a place on our programs. So how do you do this? Well, first of all, before you can, you need to do a little bit of preparation. So it might seem obvious to say that any media programme is, of course, going to want to see evidence that you have an interest in and engagement with media. But the term media itself encompasses a really huge variety of practices, processes and productions. So your interest in media might be something like making or analysing film, TV and radio, or you might have an interest in print media like magazines and newspapers, or online content like websites and social media. Studying media might mean learning media practices like filmmaking, photography, animation, illustration, journalism, or you might also be interested in media from the perspective of things like advertising, public relations and communications. You might even be interested in media's role in things like activism and issues of social justice. So it might sound basic, but really the first thing you need to do is to make sure you know, out of this very broad area, what of these areas it is that you want to study and what you might even want to do with it once you actually have studied it. So what you might want to go on to think about doing as a career after you've graduated. So as well as university websites, there are many other resources that you can investigate to find out more about media, both as a subject and as a profession. So for example, something like the Media Reform Coalition, which is based in our department at Goldsmiths, campaigns to ensure that the UK media operates in the public interest. So if you're interested in issues of media power and social justice, that's the sort of thing that might be worth a look. The BFI Film Academy runs short courses and events for young creatives aged between 16 and 25 that serve to connect you with working professionals and develop your practical media skills. And the Creative Industries Federation organises events like Discover Creative Careers Week, which might introduce you to professional options you weren't even aware existed. And the idea is that you can then draw on this kind of research and experience to expand your knowledge of the media sector and the kind of careers opportunities that might be available to you, and then demonstrate in your personal statements why you want to study that kind of media at a university level. So where should you study media? So this brings me to this second point, how to make sure that the programs you're applying for are teaching you the kind of things that you're generally interested in and passionate about and are the right program for you. And you can do this, of course, by researching each program as thoroughly as you can. One of the best ways to do that is to attend either in-person or online open days and other kinds of events. But you can also get a good sense just by visiting the program's website and noting the kind of modules they teach and even the research interests of the staff who are doing that kind of teaching. So for example, most of our programs here at Goldsmiths are both theoretical and practical. So by theoretical, I mean ways of thinking and talking about the media as well as making media products. So we like to see evidence in that case of an interest in things like the social and cultural and political aspects of media, as well as practical aspects like filmmaking or TV or journalism, etc. So some of your interests are, of course, going to be demonstrated by the kind of qualifications you have and the kind of subjects that you studied, whether it be at A-level or BTEC or IB or Access or Foundation courses. But obviously your personal statement is where you can really highlight this and demonstrate that you're aware of it as well, aware of its relevance. So perhaps mentioning any specific authors or readings or viewings that have particularly inspired you, and that might reflect the kind of things that are taught on the programme you're applying for. This can also be supported by things you do when you're not studying. So perhaps you have a blog, or you're a keen photographer, or you've been involved in publicising an event or a campaign. So all of those sorts of things can help to emphasise how well suited you are to the studies that you're applying for, which is really one of the main elements of a personal statement. So for media programmes like ours with a theoretical element, some indication of the ability to demonstrate a critical analysis might be also useful. So perhaps demonstrating an awareness of some of the main debates and arguments around media, or evidence that you have thought about or researched or be interested in some of those key questions and concepts. So issues of media power, issues of audience power, the quality of media that we have and what impact that might have on people. So for some programs in some institutions, even studies that are not specifically about media can still be relevant. So for example, a lot of media studies looks at how media works within social structures. So humanities subjects like sociology or the social sciences are definitely relevant. But there are also aspects of media studies that encompass things as wide as psychology, economics, political affairs, even geography and history. And if you can make a reference in your personal statement to how those sorts of subjects link with media, then they can really work in your favour. So for example, I have a BTEC in art and design, but my application to Goldsmiths highlighted some of the things I learned on that BTEC, such as the relevant reading I'd done for things like history of art and communication studies that directly related to some of the modules that ran on the first year of the BA. So to summarise, before you begin, ensure you know what you want to study and why you want to study it. And I really would recommend some time thinking about that and discussing it with your teachers, tutors or advisors. Secondly, research the institutions and programs you're going to be applying to. What do they teach? How do they teach? Who is doing that teaching? And why are they generally the best place for you? So obviously what can complicate this process is if you're applying to more than one program. And if that's the case, your personal statement might be read by up to 5 different universities. So this is when your research around media, as we've been talking about, can be really important, because that can really help you focus your statement on the subject and the elements that your chosen programs share, rather than what each specific program actually offers. So prioritise writing about why you want to study this subject at higher education, what does it offer you, and how well suited you'll be for it in relatively general terms, and try and identify what it is that your chosen programs actually share. So once you've done your research and worked out what you want to study and where, you're now ready to write your personal statement. So I'm going to give you an idea, I guess, of a suggested template, and it's only a suggested structure. It's not intended as a set of rules, but rather just as a guide. So your opening paragraph, what you want to study and why, that is what should be in your opening paragraph. And this is possibly the most important element of your statement. You want to grab the reader straight away with your knowledge and enthusiasm. So think carefully and honestly before you start about your motivation. Do you want to study media because you want to create your own short films and animations that tackle issues relating to social justice, perhaps? Or do you want to study media because it's a multidisciplinary subject that enables you to engage with various academic debates and develop creative skills? That's the sort of thing you should start trying to hone in on. Also, remember that a personal statement is not like answering an exam question. It's about getting a sense of who you are. So it's important to have that kind of conversational tone and use your own words and phrases when you're talking about the things that inspire and excite you. So the supporting statement would be the second part of your statement. This is where you give the detail necessary to support the information you've given in the opening paragraph. So in order to work out what to include, you could begin by considering some of the following questions. So, how have the things you've studied prepared you for your chosen programs? And again, think quite widely about that. What ignited your passion for this subject? What was the thing that really made you think, this is what I want to study and this is something I'm going to be really good at doing? What do you expect to study, and how has your previous experience, academic and vocational, prepared you for that kind of study? What debates, arguments and questions around media most interest you, and why might that be? What writers, books, theorists, concepts most excite you and interest you, and why? What have you read or watched recently that you think might be relevant to mention? And what activities like summer schools or online lectures, events, etc. have you done that might be relevant and might demonstrate your suitability for these kinds of programs? So consider also including information that demonstrates your curiosity and your willingness to have your views challenged, and your ability to work in a group, your ability to be open and sensitive to diversity, any evidence that you might be able to offer of your determination and reliability, or examples of where you've been entrusted with something important. So, for example, if you've had particular kinds of caring responsibilities or any kind of employment and volunteering. All of that stuff gives us a sense not only of who you are, but also of your suitability to actually thrive in a higher education environment where you do need to study and act quite differently than you might have done at school. So your conclusion will round up your statement, and this can be a place for mentioning the non-focused information that might be relevant for your application. So the non-subject focused information, I should say. So this not only gives us a sense of who you are, but can also, again, demonstrate your suitability for studying at higher education generally. So mention your hobbies, mention your interests, mention the things that might not actually relate to the subject, but which demonstrate the kind of person that you are. Remember that every admissions tutor will be looking for pretty much the same things, that you understand the programs that you're applying for and that you have a good chance of thriving on them. So I would just suggest that you end by reading through your finished statement with that in mind, with the ideas of the admissions tutor in mind and the course in mind, and also please do ask advice from those around you where needed. So that's my summary of what you need to do in order to construct as effective a personal statement as you might do. Good luck on your applications, and I wish you well.